Welcome back to the county seat. The issue is the resource management plans of the BLM. Now, by now you've had a chance to kind of let it digest a little bit about what an RMP is, how it works, and the situation that we have that is the topic and the concern across the public lands in the state of Utah. So for our round table discussion, we're pleased to introduce Gordon Topham, who's a commissioner from Sevier County, Mark Ward, who is the public lands attorney for the Utah Association of Counties, and Bill Ryan, who is a consultant in the oil business out in the Uinta Basin. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Glad to be here.
Good. Well, Gordon, let's start with you because it was your phone call that first got this issue started.
You know, I started with this. I was on the Resource Advisory Council of the BLM for Utah for 6 years, and for the last 4 years of that, I was the chair. And during that period of time, we were going through establishing these resource management plans. And not only the BLM, but the counties and other people that made input spent millions of dollars through this process. And then when they finished the 7-year period that was right at the end of the Bush administration, then the story got out, untrue, that this was rushed through at the last few minutes. That's not what happened. I mean, and we jumped through hoop after hoop to complete those. And then at first there was 3 that were challenged, 3 of the 6, by a coalition of environmental organizations. It's our understanding that they are tweaking this with sitting at the table with these environmental organizations or representatives from them. And they don't have standing. Legally, they don't. We do as counties. We do as a state, but that's not happening. If we find out that, in fact, is true, then there's a big problem with what's going on.
Well, Mark, let me ask you, from a legal standpoint, a question. And Gordon brings up a very good point. Stakeholders. FLIPMA very clearly describes who's supposed to be involved, and if I'm not mistaken, does it not say that planning, the BLM's planning, is supposed to be consistent with state and local planning?
Absolutely. Cooperating agency is a term of art that basically applies to county governments, state government, tribal governments. Cooperating agencies, Chad, have a seat at the table, are supposed to have a seat at the table in developing plans and in any kind of a negotiation to amend those plans. The tail is wagging the dog here because non-cooperating agency organizations, i.e. environmental groups, are exclusively at the table right now with BLM, while cooperating agencies, while counties and state governments who have poured millions of dollars of time and resources into developing these plans are now on the sidelines. They have no idea what's going on in these negotiations. They've been excluded, and that is a serious violation of Federal Land Policy Management Act, which we call FLIPMA. Mm-hmm. And as to consistency, FLIPMA also requires that BLM make its resource management plans as consistent as feasibly possible with state and local resource management plans.
Then that wouldn't trump very well here in Utah, because most of the counties that I've talked to say that they're not very happy or that these plans that they're currently under aren't anywhere near what their planning was in areas of transportation and development and things like that. They're quite contrary, aren't they?
Well, the 2008 plans are not perfectly consistent with state and local plans, but they do fairly well. The problem, though, is now that the BLM has been sued, they're negotiating away whatever consistency existed in those 2008 plans. The counties made a strategic decision in 2008 that, you know what, those 2008 plans are going to be fairly consistent, and it's probably about as good as we could hope to expect. Environmentalists didn't like them for the fact that they were at least somewhat consistent with county plans. Now the environmentalists are trying to basically break them down and make them so they're not consistent at all. And doing so under the guise of this lawsuit, which is being settled without county input. So there's a lot of concern on the part of the counties that whatever amount of consistency there was there may be frittered away once the negotiations are over.
Is there a chance, I mean, do you guys have standing for a case on this legally?
We believe we do, yes.
Okay. Well, yeah. Bill, I want to direct my attention to you because you represent people who have a big stake as far as industry goes with oil and gas and the leases, and of course that's where a lot of this all started, was with the 77 leases. And I've got to be real fair and honest. We when we set out to do this roundtable discussion, we actually invited different gas and oil people from the companies that are actually producing to come sit at this roundtable. And quite frankly, we said we have great interest in it, we'll watch the show, but we don't want to have our faces shown here. Is there something wrong when somebody is upset with a federal policy or they question it, that they're actually afraid because of their business to engage in public debate about it?
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I mean, yeah, there's something wrong. There's something really wrong. And it shouldn't apply just to the oil and gas industry. I mean, if you're a grazer, if you have any interest, recreation, whatever, you should be able to feel comfortable to be able to go ahead and make statements on this type of a program or any place else for that matter. And for them to admit to you that this is what's actually the concern, and I've personally experienced it with my company and in our work and stuff, yeah, there's something really wrong. And if for no other reason, we should be looking at these agencies and saying, look, they're out of control. They don't abide by the law. They won't listen to the people that actually have a vested interest in what's going on out there.
Public lands management is driven legally by the resource management plan. And if stakeholders like oil and gas companies can't speak up, then it takes away the whole meaning of public lands management. The public part of it falls out of it. If the only people at the table are a very narrowly defined set of extreme organizations that have one agenda and one agenda only, it turns the whole idea of public land planning on its head.
Well,
And I can even understand why the industry actually allows itself to have this happen. You're sitting there with a drilling program and it's going to cost millions of dollars, or we're going to invest millions of dollars to do it. And an environmental group says, look, if you don't do it our way, we're going to go ahead and litigate you. And by doing that, it delays the program. And the litigation may not have any validity to it, but because of the time value of money and everything else, you wind up actually, caving in. And again, we've seen that happen.
well, I told you that 9 minutes would go by very quickly, and we are on the downside slope of those 9 minutes. So
Let me just say that
in 20 seconds. say
Okay,
it.
the Bureau of Land Management, is the bad guy in this. We keep saying, but locally in our county, we have great local people, but their authority has been stripped away from them.
There you go.
Absolutely.
We'll be back with closing thoughts on this in just a minute on the county seat. Stay with us.